Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
And greetings. Thank you so much for joining me, Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. And today, we are so happy to have as our guests Connie and Andrew, and they are involved with a project called the Trust Frequency, and you can find them at thetrustfrequency.net. Connie and Andrew present a system of cosmological axioms informed by indigenous cosmology, unified physics, Eastern and Western mysticism, and plain common sense, which resolve key paradoxes that have kept humanity from walking in balance with universal law and an open heart. They offer straightforward practical tools for assessing the trust frequency, an alternative reality where the soul's destiny awaits, the laws are expanded, and there is more balance, beauty, joy, and abundance than we can fathom. So thank you so much for joining us today, Constance and Andrew.
Well, we're thrilled to be here.
Yeah, good morning on this beautiful December 22nd, the day after the solstice and the confluence of these amazing planets in our solar system.
Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful time. Now, there's one interesting phrase in your introduction, which has actually become news lately, and that's an alternative reality. It seems like people are walking within alternative realities at this time.
Do you want to address that, Connie?
So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, what we mean is that the different frequencies have different laws, and our vibratory level determines our frequency. And we say that it's a conscious, loving universe. There is only love. And the reason we see things as not love is because that love is unconditional. It gives us everything we ask for. And what we don't understand is what our requests are to that conscious, loving universe. Once we understand that, how the universe works, and how we phrase it is what our requests are to this universe that loves us so much, it gives us everything we ask for. Our requests are our consciousness, and we have 7 aspects of our consciousness that determine our frequency. Do you want to mention what those 7 are, Andrew?
Well, let me just chime in here that now if people are interested in learning more beyond today, because it's a complex topic, some people are well familiar with this kind of thinking, and for some people it's completely new. And so you do have a book called The Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. So that's a way that people can actually learn more by going to your website, thetrustfrequency.net. So that's interesting. But go ahead and explain that concept to us.
Now, Ellen, I'd just like to address your first question, which had to do with this alternative reality, because we're in a world today where people really are living in alternative realities. And we're actually presenting a way to get conscious, to choose the alternative reality we take on. So you could get into conspiracy theories and go deep down that rabbit hole, et cetera, et cetera. What we're proposing is that there's a much higher alternative reality, which should, from my perspective, certainly be infinitely more positive and result in a kinder, more loving human being and a kind of more loving society, which is what I'm personally interested in.
Yes, and you're saying this can actually be a choice. As I travel around the world, and I've lived all over, I've lived in the caves in Spain, in the Pyrenees Mountains, studying flamenco dancing, for instance. And I've lived in a little grass shack in a very remote area of Mexico for 2 years, studying herbal medicine, which I've written many books about. 15 books about. So as you travel, even within your day, anyone can just look at what's going on around them. Like if they drive through a different neighborhood, let's say, that's very low income versus a neighborhood that's very high income. That can be a teaching tool about, okay, each of those people really are living a different reality that exists in real time.
Yes, absolutely. And what I wanted to finish with is the consciousness, the aspects of our consciousness that determine our frequency and our vibration.
And our reality.
And our reality.
Yeah.
So those 7 A's, we have them in a sentence, which is a little toolbox for people to check where their 7 aspects of their consciousness are focused, and therefore what reality they're creating with their consciousness. And I'll say those in a sentence.
That's good. Oh, that's very good. So this is a little tool that for those people who find this conversation, let's say very out of the box or something they haven't approached before. So you're bringing it down to where someone can understand that. So please do share.
Yeah, okay, here it goes. With expanded awareness and accurate assumptions, we choose our attitude, consciously direct our attention, align with our highest inner promptings, take committed action, and allow the loving universe to manifest beyond our wildest dreams. So who wouldn't want that reality?
That's true. Now, you and perhaps you and definitely myself, have been in situations, and I'll give you one, like a household where the husband is abusive and he's literally beating his wife up. She's slammed against the wall, and the little kids not only are seeing it, but he's screaming and yelling and throws them also. Now, what could that woman do right in that moment to change the frequency of what she's experiencing? Or are there times when we can't do that?
Well, we have a course called The Dance of Souls, the Relationship Evolution. And what we bring forth in that course with applying the trust frequency to relationships, is that everything in our life happens for us, not to us. In other words, we come to this planet on a journey to wholeness, to self-love, and we bring in relationships and behaviors to teach us the parts of ourselves we don't love yet. So in that instance, when that woman is in the middle of that, it's pretty tough to say, hey, what's going on in my life that I have these relationships? But once she's in a place where she can contemplate, okay, I don't want this in my life anymore, because some people actually expect abuse because they were raised with it and that sort of thing. But it's a way of understanding that our soul has brought in this behavior, and we have inner work to do, to go inside and see what parts of ourselves we don't love yet that are asking for this kind of behavior. Because in this trust frequency construct, there's only love. And that love is unconditional. It gives us what we ask for, and we give an overarching act of free will when we incarnate to go on a journey to wholeness. And the relationships in our life show us our light, but also show us our shadow. So that's a pretty complex answer for people who don't think like this. But ultimately, we get out of victim consciousness. We get out of being a victim, and we understand that that these relationships are bringing us a look at parts of ourselves that we don't love yet, that we expect to be abused because we're worthless, because we shouldn't have ever been born because we have no right to be here and we are stupid and all those things that people are carrying deep inside. So
let me clarify 2 points here, Ellen. One is that when we say there is only love with a capital L, what we mean by that, we do not mean love as in holding hands and getting married, the feelings I have for my dog or my child. That's not the love we're speaking of. We're speaking of love on a cosmic level, that the universe consists entirely of love. And once we know that and trust that, it really changes things. It really helps us, I believe, to trust the process of what we are going through in this present moment. And the other thing is, we're not talking about trusting every human being in our lives with our safety and our peace of mind. It's not that either. But if we have attracted that to us, if we have magnetized that to us, there's a reason for that. And as we become more conscious using those 7 words beginning with the letter A, awareness, etc., it's a practice, it's a process. And as we trust that process and learn to open our hearts and to believe with great conviction that everything that happens in our lives happens for us, not to us, for our growth. So the circumstances in our lives we're not victims of circumstance. We eventually learn that we're actually beneficiaries of circumstance, which is different thing.
You have a very nice online course where people can delve into this more, called The Dance of Souls, the Relationship Revolution. And what a beautiful name. What is that about?
Well, it's about these souls dancing together at deep levels. Okay, so it's actually our souls magnetize, bring in behaviors. So the soul can grow, the soul can come into wholeness, meaning self-love and self-acceptance and alignment with our divinity and our purpose, our gift that we promise to bring to the planet. So it's the big job we came here to do. And so there's no shame, no blame for anything that we've gone through in our lives. It's okay. Get conscious about it. Get conscious about your inner work that you have to do. Stop blaming others and be grateful to others for bringing those relationships to us, those behaviors, so that we can do our inner work.
That's a really wonderful way to discuss it. And I've written many books myself. One is called Synchronous Connections, a personal journey through non-ordinary reality. And in there, we discuss a lot of those concepts also. The first thing that you're saying is you have to become the watcher. You have to take that first step of higher consciousness, which is stepping back and being able to watch yourself instead of being totally embroiled in whatever you feel is pain. But when you get to step back and watch yourself, you can begin to, and of course, if you believe in things like past lives, that's very clarifying about relationships left unhealed on other levels, and that how we have to come back and have that interaction again to heal it. Or, of course, we can do it mentally, even if someone has already passed, or even if we've had an interaction with them in a past life. And I find that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, Ellen, you mentioned the watcher, and traditionally in Buddhism, for example, you'd call it the witness. It's the same thing. It's a higher frequency. We are at a higher vibratory rate, or we're in a higher vibratory state as the witness, as the watcher. We are not attached to what's going on in the lower 3D realm. That's very, very helpful. And as we learn to trust the process of whatever it is we're going through, then life gradually blossoms, and we gain the courage to open our hearts and to trust in ways that we might not have. That defended heart, we learn to soften and let go.
And that is so helpful when people are struggling, because, you can step out of that struggle. And I think a very important thing that you said, which is so true with people that you work with who have, let's say, chronic addictions, to substance abuse, to alcohol, to sexual addictions, all kinds of addictions, very often they're still in the mindset that this is happening to them rather than what role are they playing in creating this. And often, like you said, it's because of past hurts and that you think you're not worth more.
That's right. So these are the things we have to overcome. You know, you mentioned past lives. So if indeed we do come from the undivided, non-dual space of consciousness that is the universe, and before we manifest as this particular individual human being of the 7.5 billion of us here on this planet, Connie, would you just explain what we mean when we use the word humanity?
So our definition of humanity is that we are divine, autonomous, sovereign beings who have chosen to incarnate on earth on our soul's journey to wholeness, which is self-love, self-acceptance, with a gift and a purpose. So with this construct that we have on the nature of the universe, our 10 assumptions create a whole construct that we ask people as an exercise to take as absolutely true. And that flips everything. Because once we say something is absolutely true, and we're not saying it is absolutely true, we're saying take it as an exercise, because once we see something as absolutely true, there is only love, then that flips everything to say, okay, how is this love? How is this serving the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth? Like everything that's been happening in our political environment and everything serves the coming of peace on earth and heaven on earth. When you ask that question, the answers you get depend on the questions you ask. And if we see something in our relationships, we see this playing out of the shadow collectively, we say, okay, how does this serve the coming of peace on earth? How does this serve my journey to wholeness? You see what I mean? And then all of a sudden, things get flipped from victim, perpetrator, and good and evil and right and wrong. They get all put into that place that's beyond duality, that place that Rumi talked about in his poem, Out Beyond Right Doing and Wrong Doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. So that's what this work is about.
And let me mention, if I may, our book is called The Trust Frequency, and the subtitle is 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. So we're offering 10, shall we say, beliefs or opinions or perspectives on the nature of the universe that taken together create an entirely new reality. We could call it a new paradigm. I'll just tell you the first assumption. We live in a conscious, loving universe. Now, I'm a science guy. I have all kinds of university degrees in chemistry and physics and mathematics. I was not taught that in any sense. I was actually taught that the universe is a essentially lifeless machine, a huge machine. And what a difference that one profound assumption makes, to know that I live in the womb of the mother that I was born into. I am contained, I'm protected, I'm loved, I'm nurtured. I have all my needs taken care of. Being part of that universe is a very different reality from being part of the mechanistic universe.
And what we have to realize is, see what Andrew was describing? Okay, if you know that and you believe that my needs are taken care of, and you walk that, instead of out of fear and competition in this scarcity-based paradigm that we have, in this competition-based paradigm that's leaving us. It's over. It's breaking down. And what's coming forth is a cooperative, generosity-based, ease-based paradigm where we don't, what I believe is, and I know is, we didn't come here to work to survive. We came to bring our gifts and receive more than we can fathom.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thought process. And the more people who could be in a state of experiencing that, I think would benefit all in the end. Now, how does this reality relate to two different concepts? One would be cosmology, which is explained and experienced in so many indigenous cultures, and then moving towards what Andrew brought up, higher level physics, such as unified physics.
Well, those are actually two names for the same thing, Ellen. The cosmology of the indigenous, what is cosmology? It's how we understand the universe to be. What is our understanding of the nature of the universe? Indigenous cosmology has always been connected, earth-based, community-based. Indigenous people know to this day that we are all connected. Quantum science, or unified science, that's one of the very first things we learn from this very cutting-edge field of physics. That everything it's called quantum entanglement. We are utterly and completely and permanently connected with each other, despite the illusion of separation that has actually resulted in all these things that we don't like as we look around.
Well, so there are definitely physics that are investigating exactly what you're talking about. Even if you look at something like string theory, which is old already, and some of the newer unified physics that are now being investigated, it actually supports all of what you are talking about.
Yes, and Nassim Haramein with resonance science, he's really at the very cutting edge of unified physics. And I'll just say a quote from him that supports what we're saying. And that is, when you change in consciousness, that means the antenna of your body is more coherent, finely tuned to get more information out of the field. It's getting more of the high frequencies where there is more information. It's more coherent, so you can get channels you couldn't get before. So it's like we're an antenna. We're a radio antenna seeking the frequencies, and it depends what frequency you're tuned into, what information you get. And we're giving tools for truly trusting and getting into a higher frequency where the laws are expanded. It's really amazing. It's such a shift from this reality where we think we're just stuck in these systems. We have to go to work where we have to compete to get the stuff, to acquire stuff so that we're okay in the world. Guess what? The whole new energy that's coming is, all right, what is your gift? How can you bring it to the party? We want your gift. And we want to synergize amongst us to bring a whole new gift from us all coming together and cooperating and bringing something amazing onto the planet.
One of my favorite teachers who really explained a world where that was the functioning paradigm is Jacques Fresco. And I don't know if are you familiar with Jacques?
I am. Yeah. That's interesting. I had not thought of Jacques in that way.
Oh, yeah. He laid out a complete system of living that leads to exactly the higher principles you're discussing. But he laid it out in a really practical way. Like, this is how we can all live together that would automatically decrease that competitiveness. What a spectacular being. The thing is, he did pass away only about 2 years ago, into his 90s, but what a fantastic being. I've had him on this show, as a matter of fact. Okay. For those who want to hear that, I can send a link. And Jacques was just, really talking about what you're bringing up, Andrew, because how do we go from that competitive, fear-based society to something more loving, like you describe in your book? And anyone can investigate that and get help from you. And you have ebooks and courses and sessions, and it's called thetrustfrequency.net.
And in 4 words, Ellen, trust the loving universe. That is my mantra. Know that you are loved by a conscious, loving universe. It really changes everything.
It does, and it makes life easier because things that do come up as a conflict, you still can step back and go, what is my lesson here? And we're certainly seeing some hopeful signs. I mean, just in the real world right now, the fact that we now will have a Native American Haaland as Interior Secretary. That is so fantastic to me because she's been a staunch environmentalist for decades, and she is now going to be in charge of the national parks, etc.
Wow, that's a breakthrough.
Yes, and this is such a playing out of a vision I had 30 years ago, that what's next in the evolution of consciousness of humanity is that we come to understand what the indigenous peoples know about the nature of the universe. It has to do with our understanding of how the universe works, our core assumptions. That's what drives our behaviors. That's what drives our systems. Our systems are all based on scarcity, fear, and separation. And those three things are leaving us because we're coming to understand we're all connected. Not only are we connected, we are one consciousness. So war is going to become obsolete because the veil is thinning that keeps us separate. And we're just going to see everyone as an aspect of ourselves. And then it's ridiculous to go to war with ourselves. And also in this higher frequency, the earth is moving into a higher frequency. So the prevailing energy is a higher frequency. And so as we move into this abundance, there's going to be more abundance than we can fathom. So there's nothing to fight over. There's no power and control over others because you have more than they do. It's just a whole new reality that's being birthed right now with a whole new energy on the planet.
Well, so the solstice has been said to be this particular year. So I'm certainly of the mindset that let's hope it does manifest. And I actually do see kind of this split coming where you can make a choice about which frequency you're going to be walking in. And you do have to elevate yourself, get out of your own pain somewhat to even be able to make that choice.
And we have that choice every breath we take.
Yep, and it's up to us. No judgment, no shame, no blame, whatever. We can choose our reality, and that's what we have to understand so that we get out of blaming circumstance, we get out of blaming others and say, okay, what reality do I want? And do I want to do the work that it takes to get into a higher reality?
And you have so many wonderful tools. So we're going to say adieu to you. Thank you so much, Connie and Andrew. And you are from thetrustfrequency.net. Is that the best place for people to find all these tools that you offer?
Absolutely.
It's a hub where you can actually access all of our material.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being our guest. And thank you, listeners, for joining us once again right here on Herbal Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College, Garden City, New York. For further information, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. This is your host, Ellen Kamhi at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us again next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.